Hello and welcome to This Week at the Lake, the news and feature show about the people and events of interest to you, the residents of Lake Monticello. This program is originating from the Hy and Muriel Badler studio. For the Lake Monticello Broadcasting Group, I'm Mona Orange and I am pleased to be your host. As our population ages, both in our country and here at Lake Monticello, it becomes more difficult for our elderly to remain in their homes, especially if they have health problems or become disabled because of their age. Most of us would prefer to stay in our homes in familiar surroundings, close to our friends, with our pets, with our lifelong belongings. But unfortunately for some, that's not possible anymore. But thanks to a new program that recently opened in Charlottesville, older residents can stay in their homes and still get the medical and social services that they need through a program called PACE. My two guests today are Betty Sharp, who's the outreach manager at Blue Ridge PACE, and Don Rentmore, a Lake Monticello resident whose mother-in-law lives with them. Betty will talk to us about Blue Ridge PACE, how it works and the services that they offer. And Don will tell us how PACE has made a difference in his life, his wife's life, and especially for their 97-year-old mother-in-law. So welcome, Betty and Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here, and I think today's program especially is going to be very interesting to the residents of our community because it is so new, and I think so many people don't know anything about it. So let's start with exactly what is PACE, because that stands for something. It's not an exercise program or anything like that.
Or a realty company.
Right.
Well, it is, but not here.
Right.
So PACE stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. We serve individuals who are over the age of 55 and who qualify for nursing home level of care, but they don't want to live in a nursing home. I'm sure if I ask everybody that lives in Lake Monticello, where would you prefer to live out the rest of your life, I'm sure they probably would not say in a nursing home. So we serve individuals that want to stay at home and age in place.
And that is something that we have not had in Charlottesville before. Am I correct?
Correct.
This is the
Correct.
first
A
time
new
we've
model of
had
care
it.
to Charlottesville.
Right, but this is not the first place that PACE has been. You have PACEs other places.
Exactly. Actually, PACE is in 31 states. We have 14 PACE programs in the state of Virginia. Virginia has actually been the fastest growing state for new PACE programs.
Oh, I wonder if that has anything to do with if we have a not quickly aging, but a lot of people retire for sure to Virginia, and I wonder if that has something to do with it. So you're already starting with an older population there. So why would a family choose to utilize PACE?
Well, PACE, it offers so much. PACE provides all medical care, all social care and restorative care for the elderly. It allows them to be able to stay at home, like you said, with their family, their pets, their familiar environment, and their belongings. And it's coordinated care across all the spectrums of care, primary care, acute, long-term care. It covers the social aspect as well.
Now, this care is all, I understand, sort of like coordinated by a team.
Correct.
And that's a team that's part of PACE. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the team? Because I
Yes.
think once you hear about the team, you start to grasp what you're really talking about.
Right. And we refer to our team as the interdisciplinary team because you have all these different disciplines that come together and care for our participants. We refer to them as participants. They're not residents. They don't live there. We don't want to call them patients because not everybody's sick all the time. But our team is made up of our medical director. We have a full-time geriatrician who is at the PACE Center. We have a doctor there 5 days a week, and his only patients are the PACE participants, which is wonderful. So he, along with the nurses and the aides and the other team members, really do get to know our participants on a personal level, inside and out. We have physical therapist, occupational therapist, a speech therapist. We have a social worker, a chaplain, a recreation therapist, and I don't want to leave anybody out. We have a dietitian, transportation manager, home care manager. and a lot of aides that assist our participants in the home and at our center.
Right. So when I first came to meet you at the center, which we'll talk about in a minute, I was really confused. I read a little bit of your materials and I said, oh, they're offering all these things. I don't really get it. So I started to realize this was sort of like going to the mall. That going to the center, you have all these things, whether, in the mall they'd be different stores and they'd be the food court, and there might be, for the kids, there's the little activity center, and so there are fun things to do, there are important things that you need to take care of, go shopping and whatever. If we take that whole model and change it to care for elderly, then it's almost the same thing. So let's talk about the PACE Center, and because that's how you're really delivering a lot of the services, although not all the services. So we have some photos, and the first photo is up there now. It's the photo outside of your building, and as I said, I've been there, so I can verify that all these things are there, as Don can also. So tell us as we go through the photos what we're looking at.
Okay, so there's our Blue Ridge PACE sign. We're located on Carlton Avenue in the Belmont area. Brand new center built from the ground up. We're actually on the old H.T. Fair and Concrete site for locals that remember that there.
Okay. Probably not too many people at Lake Monticello will know where that was, but this was a very easy thing to find. Okay, so let's move to the next picture.
Okay, there's a picture of our therapy gym where we provide physical therapy, occupational therapy. You can't see, but off to the side there is a soundproof room where our speech language pathologist can do his part.
And is that mostly with participants who maybe have had a stroke or something, and so they need some speech therapy?
Well, that, and for participants who maybe they have they need to lose some weight. Maybe they need to be on a wellness program, or
no,
maybe
I was just talking about the speech therapist.
Oh, the speech therapist.
Right.
That, and for others that may have issues with swallowing, and I'm not a clinical person, but it can cover a lot of different reasons. But I was looking at the gym itself,
and which is quite large, which is larger than it looks like in the photo. And I was quite impressed with how that was laid out and all the things that you had there.
And therapy doesn't just have to take place there in the gym. During activities in the day rooms, the physical therapist is often in there leading groups doing things, and they're getting their physical therapy, but they're having fun, as well as therapy that may need to take place in the home.
Okay, so let's see the next photo.
Okay, that's our largest day room. We call that downtown. And the very far back at the far end is where, you can almost see the window that opens up to our big kitchen. So that's where our meals are served. We serve what's called a morning snack every morning. For me, it would be breakfast because it's a pretty hefty snack. And we serve lunch there. Lunch is a big meal. It's more like a supper or dinner type meal. And then an afternoon snack. This is also...
That's really a snack.
In the afternoon, right. That's really a snack.
That's right.
Activities take place in here. We bring in entertainment. I know today they have a musician coming in to provide some music for our folks as well.
Okay, let's see the next photo.
There's some activity going on right there. That's the day we had some live entertainment. I can see our social worker dancing with one of our participants, and a couple other folks in our recliners just observing and relaxing.
And is that in the same room that we just looked at?
That's the same room that we just looked at.
Okay, let's look at the next photo.
This is our game room. In here, our recreation therapist sets up all kinds of activities that are a little more physically geared. I know they do art class in here. You can't see in there, but our big screen TV is in there. We have one TV and that's it, and that's we don't want to park anybody in front of a TV all day.
But don't they do things like play Wii?
They've got the Wii game
Wii
system
bowling
in there,
and
movies and sports.
Oh, okay, good.
And I see our library here. So we have it's a nice, quiet, relaxing kind of a room. All of our books have been donated, and we still take donations if anyone has them.
That's good to know.
So it can be used for meeting space. I know our chaplain does a lot of his programming in there. And some folks just want to get away sometimes and have somewhere quiet to go sit and read.
Okay.
This is a shot of part of our clinic. This is more of our observation area. We have 4 exam rooms in there as well, but they can do a whole lot. We have a lab right there on site where routine lab work can be run. They can run IVs. We can bring in mobile X-ray. We can do wound care. The goal is to keep people out of the hospital.
Right, so let's stay on this slide for a second because let's just go over, you had talked about you have a full-time doctor on staff and also a registered nurse.
Oh, we have nurses and aides and clinical care coordinator.
So you can do a lot of medical things right there on the spot.
Exactly, because the worst place for an elderly person to be is in the hospital or sitting in the emergency room. But, you know, if someone does need to be at the hospital, we are there with them. You know, our medical team is there visiting and guiding their care and communicating with those doctors as well.
Again, that team approach, including, and one of the things we didn't talk about is the fact that you also, Blue Ridge PACE, teams with other health facilities. And what are those?
We're locally partnered with UVA Health System, and I would partner with JABA locally, and our third partner is Riverside Health System. They are located in the Tidewater area. That's where our business office is, the operational end, because Riverside actually operates 6 of the 14 PACE programs in the state of Virginia.
Okay. I think this was an important slide, especially, I mean, even though there are so many other things going on, but, you know, people might say, well, how is this different from JABA daycare? You know, because you're talking about these fun things they can do, but they don't do physical therapy at the JABA daycare, and they certainly can't provide these kinds of medical services or the connections to medical services that they might need other places.
And we do have, there's always a PACE nurse on call 24 hours a day that can take that phone call, you know, day, night, weekend, you know, to take care of our folks or make a home visit if necessary.
So outside, you know, we're talking about the center as a part of, it's a big part of the delivery model, thank you, but not the only part, that there's actually services outside of the center. And so we know where the center is. We saw the picture and the address. What are the hours of the center?
Well, the center itself is open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. And for individuals that need, you know, care outside of that, like I said, we have the 24-hour on-call, and then the home care that's provided for individuals that qualify for those hours in the community.
And so this sounds like such a great program, and I'm sure it is. What areas are served? It's located in Charlottesville, at least the center is located.
Exactly.
What counties do you cover for services?
You know, we cover Charlottesville and Albemarle, we cover Greene County, Louisa, Nelson, and Fluvanna County.
Okay. And so here we are in Fluvanna County. Here is something that's available to us at Lake Monticello. And this is where Don comes in. You know, why is he sitting here? Not just another pretty face, but because you really have a totally different experience with PACE than either of us do. So why don't you tell us about how you learned about PACE and what your involvement is?
Learning about PACE, it is difficult. Well, it's not now, but when it first started, it was. My mother-in-law, Elaine's mom, my wife Elaine, lives with us, and she is 97 years old and requires a lot of assistance. Now, as caregivers know, after a while, they need some assistance also.
Right.
Trying to find that assistance can be difficult, and unless you spend some time looking for it, it doesn't just appear out of the mist to you. It can be difficult. We were taking my mother-in-law to JABA. Her doctor is a geriatrics physician associated with UVA and with JABA, and he would, when PACE was first beginning, he was mentioning that we should consider PACE as a program. Although he said, not yet. He said, give them a little bit of time to get their feet wet. Betty, you opened in March, I
March,
Right,
believe.
we didn't mention that.
March
When we say
1st.
recently
March
opened,
1st.
we mean recently in 2014 in March.
2014. Brand new building, brand new program, available in Virginia, but not in Charlottesville until March. And they actually were ready, I think you were ready to go in like December
We
of
were.
last year,
We
but
were.
then it took that long to get your certifications processed.
Some government delays.
Right, well, we understand that completely. We'll say no more.
So, and then as we checked into PACE and we found the connection between JABA and UVA, we thought, this can't be a really bad program. This must be something that's fairly reasonable. And we started talking to them. And it takes a month to process someone becoming a new member of PACE. So my mother-in-law started the 1st of August of this year, and she loves it. That's the best I can say. She wakes up, because she doesn't go on the weekends, she will get up Saturday and Sunday mornings, and the first words out of her mouth are, "Am I going anywhere today?" Which I interpret as, I'd really like to be going to PACE, because that's where all my social activity is, that's where all my interaction is, that's where everyone is so nice to me. Otherwise she'd be sitting at home with Don and Elaine, and we don't spend all day talking to her.
Right.
So she misses that socialization that she gets by
Sure.
going to PACE.
Sure, everything is directed for her there.
And I was going to go through all of the litany of people that are associated with as the team there at the facility, but Betty did that, and I don't think you left
Well, if
out
I left
anyone.
anybody out, please, I don't want to
No,
leave.
I think you have them all.
Okay, so now when you first started, when she was at JABA, you were driving her to JABA.
Yes.
And when she first started at PACE, you were driving her.
We
Is that
drove
correct?
her in the morning. We would go back and pick her up in the afternoon. We recently have started having her take the jaunt bus home in the afternoons, which, you can't beat. She gets on there at the facility. They assist her getting onto the bus. They drop her off in our driveway, and the driver and we assist her getting off of the bus. So she gets to enjoy a nice little bus ride in the afternoons to get home.
And it certainly makes your experience a little easier. You don't have to make that drive into Charlottesville every day, twice a day.
Twice a day. We do it once a day now. We do it in the mornings. And we do that primarily as a time saving for her. We get her there in time to have her breakfast in the morning, which she every day says was good, and lunch is always good. And she misses her little snack in the afternoon if should she not get that for some reason.
Okay, so does she go 5 days a week?
She goes 5 days a week. We get her there about 9 o'clock in the morning. She gets on the bus somewhere around 3:30 in the afternoon and is usually home by 4, quarter after 4, sometimes 4:30. It's a bus. You can't always,
Right.
buses' schedules vary from time to
Right,
time.
right.
Just a fact of life.
And so the participants who are involved with PACE, not all of them come 5 days a week, right?
Correct.
It varies. So
It varies, individual to individual, family to family, depending on what their need is. Some folks may come twice a week, some may come 3 or 4 or 5, and we do provide transportation. It's offered for all of our participants to and from the center and to and from medical appointments they have that are outside of our primary care clinic.
So let's talk about that a little bit too, okay? Because we really haven't, and we haven't even talked about that because we talked about a team approach, but part of that team is also the family and the
Correct.
participant themselves. That
Right.
decisions are made together.
Exactly.
So can you give me an example of like what would be, some medical issue or something that they would need to take the participants somewhere? Okay, go ahead. John, tell us.
Let me go on
You
for
go right
just
ahead, Don.
let me go on for just a minute here. I cannot believe the assistance that we have received through the PACE program. I mean, if you came into our house now, you would see a transport chair provided by PACE. There's a medical alert emergency system provided by PACE. We have a bed pad that is a sound alert system should my
okay.
mother-in-law decide to get out of bed without assistance in the middle of the night. There's a bedside commode that was provided by PACE. And I think, well, maybe that's, there's another walker somewhere, and a walker. So all of those accessories have been provided through the PACE program. It's astounding to me. I mean, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
And people need to know that that is available. That's why this program at Lake Monticello is so important in my mind, because the program is out there and people just need some way of connecting to it.
And this is a good step to help that happen.
Absolutely.
So that's great that we know about all these things PACE provides for the home. And what about, I'm going to go back to that interdisciplinary team effect, because I think that when, we're aging ourselves, not everybody out in our viewership, but certainly, Don and I, and then when you have to take care of a parent that's aging, and you're talking about trips for yourself to go to the doctor and to see specialists, and then trips for your 97-year-old mother-in-law to go to the doctor and see specialists. You could actually spend your entire life setting up appointments and going to those appointments. But once there's a participant of PACE, then that's not all on your plate anymore. Am I correct? That's
Correct.
Now was shared.
Correct. Our clinical care coordinator and our medical team coordinate all those other medical appointments, because a lot of seniors have other doctors in their primary care. So,
Right.
If somebody needs to see their cardiologist, we're going to make that appointment. We're going to arrange their transportation if they need transportation. Individuals that don't have family that's here that can go with them, if we need to send an aide, we can with them to that appointment, and keep all that coordinated and have our doctor communicating with those other doctors so that our team is aware of everything that's being done outside of our clinic.
And that's so cool because, just like you're saying, I mean, it's one thing if you have family that can help you with that, but if you're on your own and you have to figure all this stuff out as you're getting older,
Right.
how wonderful to have the expertise of other people there who can help you through the process and actually help you with things like making appointments and providing transportation. I mean, it's just, it's just amazing to me that you can provide all those things. Now, I think the other side of that is, it's not a huge program. It's a small program, which we'll talk about a little bit. And there are eligibility requirements to get into the program. Not everybody is eligible. So, like, Don and I could not become participants in the program. So
We hope not.
Right.
There is another lady here at the lake who is a
Okay, we don't want to
participant in the
mention
program.
names, though, right? Right.
And she and my mother-in-law ride home on the jaunt bus
great.
every afternoon. And she needs more. She actually needs more assistance than my mother-in-law does. But the fact that there are at least 2 members
Right.
of the Lake Monticello.
Right. And that's, and that's with you only being open since March and lots of people not knowing.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing that people don't know. So let's talk a little bit about who is, and anything we talk about that you want to add in, just do that. We have a fly in the studio. It's making me crazy. Okay, so who's eligible to participate in PACE?
Right. As I mentioned, age eligibility is 55 and older. They need to qualify for nursing home level of care. So what that means is they have to pass a screening. It's a state of Virginia assessment tool that determines what level of care someone qualifies for. So you've got to meet that nursing home level of care. Need to live in our service area, which we covered all of that.
Right, and if you live at Lake Monticello,
you are in the service area. And we're actually determined by zip code. We cover 42 zip codes, so we have a big rural area that we cover. And the fourth eligibility requirement is that the individual is able to live safely in the community with our services in place. We can't enroll somebody that's not going to be safe. Even with our support, we're responsible for them 24 hours a day. We've got to make sure that, you know, if someone lives alone, that they can push that life alert button, that they can call for help if there's an emergency.
And they live someplace with, you know, heat and
Exactly.
things like that. I mean, they have to, right. So I understand what you're saying. It's a whole list of things that would be for them, making them safe. I remember you telling me, and actually you alluded to this, that if somebody's interested in enrolling, it's not going to happen in a day. There's a process.
It won't happen in a day, and it may not even happen in a month. It depends, because we are funded through Medicare and long-term care Medicaid. And for those that don't have Medicaid, there's a private pay option. But I've helped a lot of people apply for long-term care Medicaid, and it's always worth exploring, because there are many people that think, oh, I would never be able to qualify for that. But you'd be surprised.
I must add that it took us a month working with Fluvanna County prior to the month that it took PACE to process.
Right. And so what you're referring to with our process is the assessments that we do in the home and at our center. So,
Yes.
So let's just clarify a little bit, how does the payment for these services work, without going into too much detail, because I know it can get very specific.
It can be complicated.
But somebody who's listening to this is saying, you know, wow, all these things happen there, and they're providing all these services. How do these get paid for? So if you could just say a few words about that.
Well, PACE programs are funded. We're funded through Medicare and Medicaid, long-term care Medicaid. And for individuals that don't have Medicaid and don't end up qualifying for that, they can privately pay that portion. So what happens is, for each participant, Medicare contributes a certain amount every month, a set amount of money. Medicaid does the same thing, and from that pool of money, PACE provides all the services. So we're the payer of all services and the provider of all services, which is nice, because we're mandated to provide everything that Medicaid and Medicare do, but we can go above and beyond that. So some of the things, you know, like typically Medicare is not going to cover things beyond the bathroom door, but if our team feels somebody needs safety things in the bathroom, grab bar, shower bench, bedside commode, PACE is going to provide that, or a ramp to get in and out of their house safely.
Oh, okay.
So we can think outside the box and be creative.
Right. That really, you know, I guess, you know, when it's real life, you have to think outside the box.
Right.
So how wonderful a program that can do that with you.
And that funding is not nearly as much as you might think. Again, that's one of the things that I'm just amazed by. I mean, people need to investigate the program and not be deterred because they might think it may be too much trouble or too costly or whatever.
And we can help with that. We can help with those steps, those processes, and communicating with social services and whatnot.
Okay, so we have a slide to put up that actually shows all the services, well, not all, but most of the services that are provided at the PACE Center. And I thought it would be a good idea, because we've been talking about all these things, but sometimes I'm one of those persons who needs a visual of what those look like. So maybe we can just go through them really quickly.
Okay. So we talked about the physician services, nursing, mentioned our social.
And again, those are all people who were at the center.
At the center.
Right.
And then coordinating with those specialists that are outside of the center.
Okay.
And we talked about our physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech. Going down to nutrition counseling, I mentioned that we have a nutritionist, but we monitor that very carefully with our participants. And the food is very good there, I must say. We've got a great kitchen and chef.
Oh, good. And while we're talking about food, let's just go back to the recreational therapy and social activities, because the day that I came to visit was Crazy Hat Day, and everybody on staff and all the participants were wearing crazy hats, which made the place really fun. And you do have all kinds of social activities. I mean, we mentioned a couple of them with the Wii, and you saw a few things. I know there's bingo and there's other
gardening
things.
And
right. And actually, we had a photo of that, and I don't know how we didn't get to see that. I think I stopped those
of the
slides too
courtyard.
early, of the courtyard,
Right.
and where people can actually actually gone and go outside and be outside. So, but
And
I
field
didn't-
trips. We didn't really talk
Oh,
about
and
that
field
either.
trips,
Getting out in the
okay.
community, small groups going out.
Okay, so let's go back to the. Oh, here's a picture of the
There
outside.
you go.
And
Okay.
it's, it doesn't necessarily look so great now, although compared to what it's outside now,
right.
where everything is, cold and, brown and whatever. But the fact that they have spots where they can actually, for people who, would love to do this at home, but really don't have the ability to do it at home, but here they can have a little piece of land or just take care of one flower or a couple of flowers. How wonderful for them.
Right.
We shared some cucumbers coming out of their little garden.
Oh, okay.
We had
And
some
there's
great
the bus we
vegetables.
were talking about also. So what is this
The
bus used for?
transportation. Okay, so we are partnered with Jaunt, and that's who comes out here to the lake. But we do have a couple of our own PACE vehicles, which folks may have seen around town. So some of our participants are actually picked up, by our drivers and on our buses. Also used to transport to and from the medical appointments that are outside of our center too.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for putting those up too. Okay, the next thing on our list was personal care, and I think this probably of everything was most surprising to me, that you have facilities to help participants with bathing. So maybe you can explain to our viewers why you have that.
Well, we do have those great big walk-in showering areas and lockers for individuals that cannot safely bathe at home. Bathroom can be the least safe place in the house. That being said, our home care aides that go into the home can help with bathing in the home, but for folks that's just not possible, it can be done at our center. And we do have a salon that will soon open. As soon as we have a few more participants and the need for that.
Right.
We're up to 40 individuals right now.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a few more than
And
when
they're-
I came to visit you.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right. Okay, and so the spiritual support you talked about having.
We have a full-time chaplain who's there to be available to the individuals. He can go to the home if necessary, the hospital to visit people if they're there. He observed hymn sings and spiritual time there. He's with the individuals or with groups.
Okay. And we talked about.
Mona, one of the things that is surprising to me is all of these people that Betty has mentioned as being on the staff, the caregivers that go to the facility with their representative get to know all of these people on a first name basis. It really is surprising.
It's a second home for you too, in a sense.
In a
Or it's
sense it
certainly
is,
an
yes.
extension of your mother-in-law's home that you're feeling welcomed at.
But you look at that list of people
Yes.
that were on the slides before and that
Right.
Betty had mentioned before.
Right.
You know all of those on a first name basis, and they know you on a first name basis.
Right.
It's important to partner with the family, with the caregivers as well.
And then the last thing on the list is the wheelchair accessible transportation, which we've mentioned now several times. And one of the things that I would like to add to, which you don't see on any of the photos and we haven't spoken about at all, is just the feeling at the center itself, which here I was a visitor for a short amount of time, and I couldn't get over the photographs on the walls, these framed photographs of all around the area, Albemarle, Fluvanna, Charlottesville, just beautiful, beautiful photos that as I was walking up and down the halls to go to different places, it almost was like a spiritual experience. It was a very calm, relaxing, beautiful visual things to be looking at, which if this is a place you're going to be every day, 5 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever, to make it that attractive. I mean, you could see a lot of time went into thinking about that.
And when folks can see places that they recognize or scenery that they recognize it's
Yes.
local, it makes them feel good, and it's a nice conversation starter too.
Right. So there were a lot of things that we didn't mention, other services, because we don't really have time to mention everything. But I just want to look at this list and mention a couple of things. Like you mentioned some things, adaptation of the home and stuff, but prescription medications and optometry and dentists and all kinds of things that the team would be helping the participant connect with. So it's way more than we have time for today, but the good thing about that is the fact that I certainly believe that the best way of finding out whether this would be a good fit for a person watching or for someone in their family is to actually go and look for themselves. So I understand that you're inviting viewers to come in for a tour.
Anyone and everyone that wants to come for a tour, just call us. And am I supposed to say the number? Is it up on the screen?
I actually have it. We have it
Oh,
up on
great.
the screen. It's the Blue Ridge Pace Center at 1335 Carlton Avenue. Again, that's in the Belmont section of Charlottesville. And the phone number is,
Yes, 434-529-1300. And you know, a lot of people come not because it's time for them to enter a program like this, but because they want to know what their options are for the future. And so for anyone to come and see us or to contact us if they would like, for me or for other staff to come out and provide some education, whether it be a civic group or a church, you know, just to educate the community.
Right. Oh, what an excellent idea.
So,
Yes, so if anybody's interested, they should call that number. They can ask for you,
Absolutely.
and you'll set something up.
That's
And
right.
you're a great tour guide because
Oh, thank
I
you.
know from
Even with my wacky hat, huh?
right, even with you, that was so fun. Although I didn't get one when I walked in the door. If I had known I had a really wacky hat, I could have worn. Let me know next time. I'll come for a visit. Okay, so do you think we forgot anything? I mean, I've looked over our notes, and I think we did a pretty good job of covering everything.
Yes, I did.
What do you
Just
think?
one more thing about
Okay.
caregiver, supporting the caregiver. We do offer caregiver support groups and education. That's just real important.
It is. It is important because that's hard.
It's
you
it's
know?
an opportunity for the caregivers to at least meet and talk for an hour or so and have some interaction directly with the staff members again. There's not much that's left out in this program.
Right. It's obviously a well thought out program, and there are so many of them that I guess each one that opens gets the benefit of the experiences that from the other centers and the other programs. So that's a really great thing, not being the first, even though you're the first in Charlottesville. Well, I want to thank you both and taking time to be with us today and sharing your experiences, Don, with your family. I think this is such an important resource for the families at Lake Monticello. Don't you?
Yes.
Do.
And
Yes, I
Don,
do.
it was fun having you in front of the camera instead of behind one, because normally Don is one of the camera people and he's the co-chair of the broadcast committee. So thank you for participating in this.
My pleasure, Mona. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you
so
very
glad
much.
you were able to come. I really am. I'm taking the time to tell us about Blue Ridge. I really appreciate that. So, but most of all, folks, I want to thank you for watching This Week at the Lake and being a regular This Week at the Lake viewer, which you can do easily by watching every morning or any morning, not every morning, at 9 a.m. or any evening at 7 p.m. I don't expect you to watch this every morning. All on Lake Channel, Lake Monticello's channel 977, and on YouTube. Are we also on YouTube? I'm
I
not
believe
sure.
we're
I
on
think
YouTube.
we're
We may
on
not be on
also.
YouTube. And Mona, may I say
Oh,
that
sure.
we have recently, very recently, just changed our broadcast schedule so that we're now on at 8:30 and 9:30 in the mornings
Oh, so I'm
and
giving
at
wrong times.
7 p.m. and 8 p.m. in the evenings.
Okay, so 7:30, 8:30 in the morning, and 7 p.m.
8:30, 9:30 in the mornings.
Okay, 8:30, 9:30 in the morning
7 and 8
at night.
at night.
So if you miss it, which is good because sometimes I remember and it's halfway over, so that's really a good thing to know. So now that you have all of that, next time I'm here, I'll make sure I give the right times. So for the Lake Monticello Broadcasting Group, I'm Mona Orange. Thanks again for watching. Stay well and stay warm.